Social media as we know it is dead. Welcome back to the Rush Hour podcast, where we take 30 years of Silicon Valley consumer tech experience at companies like Microsoft, Discord, Twitch, and Zynga, and condense it into digestible insights for people who are interested in the latest tech news, trends, and what it's like to live and work in the Bay Area. I'm Justin, and I'm joined by my co-host, TW. We spent decades combined navigating the ever-evolving tech landscape, from building marketing strategies for top consumer brands to working with startups redefining the game. And today we're talking about top consumer tech predictions for 2025. So if you're interested in understanding where the puck is heading for massive transformations that are redefining how we work, connect, and interact with technology in this new AI age, this episode is for you. Let's jump in.
3, 2, 1, go!
All right. So, Tita, we were both pretty excited for today, talking about, our predictions episode. I feel like every podcast has prediction episodes, so we have to do this to a certain extent. But yeah, it's been a crazy year. Like, what are some things maybe even in 2024 that have surprised you, kind of maybe leading into some of these predictions that we'll do?
I think AI, everyone talked about it, but actually using it and how fast it's moved has been pretty incredible. I think, ChatGPT was beginning of the year was like, hey, is this a thing? To now it's like integrated in your phones. It's like everyone's got their version of it. It's really taken a hold, and now we're seeing it. I feel like we're seeing it in jobs, right? Jobs are taking a hit. Tech overall has kind of embraced it. It's a thing now, for sure. And now we're it seems like we're heading into the evolution of this. It's like, what's next with AI?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree on that. I think that I guess I had some sense after playing around with the tools when they first came out, November 2022, that it was going to be something impactful. But now it's literally a part of my everyday kind of life and experience, right? Like, I'm actually using these tools to get me to what we've talked about before, which is like 60% of the way on, in terms of like how these, how they're contributing. So it's pretty incredible, man. And I think that 2025 is, there's some other kind of like trends and predictions that we had. So, maybe we talk about some of those, and I can jump in.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was right around this time last year. Me, you, and Tong had our normal quarterly meetup.
Yeah,
we said we should just do a podcast. Like, why don't we just do
yes,
it? And that,
I know.
right? It's been about a year since, the first thought of doing this, and now we're doing it. Now we're in.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
I'm so grateful that, you reached out with the idea. We get to not only hang weekly, but, get some of our knowledge and insights out there. And it's just been mad fun. And also kind of getting into the, journey, the content creator journey ourselves. So it's been really dope.
For sure.
Cool. So let me jump into my, I'll jump into my first prediction. So, I think that where things have trended within the context of the creator economy, that there's going to be a rise, even more of a rise of the everyday influencer. So what's some of the historical context here? The creator economy grew from 1.7 billion in 2016 to over 250 billion by 2023. Like, let's just take a step. Let's just think about that for a second in terms of, it's literally insane. And I think that, this trajectory also suggests continued growth into 2025. So, like, what are some of the things that, relative to my thesis of kind of the everyday influencer, coming into effect? What's some of the data around that? Well, LinkedIn reports that personal brand content generates 2 to 3 times more engagement than company content. And according to Microsoft's 2023 Work Trend Index, 43% of workers are considering job changes, which indicates the need for personal branding. McKinsey also says that by end of 2025, AI could automate up to 30% of current work hours. So I think that this is kind of like almost like a new industrial revolution that's coming in. you have the compounding effect of new AI tools, but then also these companies, particularly within the tech space, that are kind of shrinking, leaner teams, you're not needing as many people. And I think what that's going to result in, or you're kind of seeing it now, but is going to like really take off in 2025, is this whole idea of kind of the knowledge influencer. So think about, people who may be in a full-time gig or maybe doing their own thing, but they start to like build a following around their knowledge base as a way to differentiate themselves and also kind of position themselves well for success. If they were to lose, a job opportunity, the traditional resume is dead. And I think that, more people are going to be leaning into creator economy type of content and tools and platforms in order to, stay ahead of the curve. So what are some examples of this, right? Like, yeah, an HR rep who's kind of talking about, hey, how do you navigate like all these different like time off and applying and finding new jobs, et cetera, creating video content about that, written content, et cetera. And I just think this is going to like accelerate exponentially now with the preponderance of new tools, as well as these platforms where people are going to try to stay competitive. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's already happening, but I took a different twist on my prediction.
Okay.
I went the other way, which is I think the everyday influencer or the bigger influencers are going to get canceled. There's going to be enough cancellations that one, this is my big one, kind of a hot take, but one completely AI created influencer is going to come out this year and be in pop culture. I'm not talking like, hey, Pepsi Cola is using an AI in their ad. I'm talking about like a Mr. Beast level influencer who is selling things, doing things, representing brands, is actually a thing. I think it happens this year. It's happened in Asia a lot. Never happened in the US. I think this is the year. Because I think it's risky, these influencers, that people are investing money and time and God knows what happens to them, sort of on the sidelines and where their thoughts are. So I feel like the evolution is really the death of the everyday influencer and just having one AI bot who can't do any wrong because he's not real and has no issue. He's not going to say anything. There's not going to be any video of him saying crazy things as a kid. There's not going to be no old tweets of saying racist things. This is going to be a like completely AI driven person. That's my prediction. It'll be a full AI bot.
Yeah, I'm going to push back on that. Yeah, my pushback would be, I think that it definitely resonates within the context of creating brand safe content. And listen, we've known a lot of influencers who kind of either gone off the handle or via associations, been canceled, et cetera. But I think that, I think for like UGC content where someone has to make kind of mass ads and things like that, AI is a good replacement. But I think that there is so much content that's out there now that's being, created by these digital twins and deepfakes, et cetera, that there's going to be a pushback against that. And where maybe something within like the AI space will get some success. I don't think you're going to see a Mr. Beast level type of character, because I feel like people are going to really crave authenticity even more. And of the creators that are out there, maybe they'll have kind of like a sidekick AI, companion that's kind of tied into their existing brand, but not one that, is at the level of a Mr. Beast. I just feel like there's just going to be so much content out there that people are going to want to get back to those authentic connections, and that might stifle, a large AI type presence from taking over.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see how, because my thought was really that it's going to happen and we won't know it, right? You're like, an influencer is going to emerge and be great and doing all these things and having funny content and interacting with a bunch of people and building a community, and then it comes out that it's an AI bot. That's kind of how I think it will unfold, right? It's gonna build a community, it's gonna FaceTime, it's gonna really interact with a ton of people on a level that you don't think can scale, and then it's gonna come out that this is an AI bot, and then at that point it's too late because you've already been catfished.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, I think that's
it's a
really
wild
interesting.
take, but
I love that we have different takes on this.
yeah,
That's perfect. And the good thing is at the end of next year, when we're kind of reviewing our predictions, we'll be able to see who's right, who's wrong. I'm sure it'll be a
yeah.
blend of the two. We'll see.
Comment below. I'd love to hear other people's thoughts on like can an AI well like where is this influencer thing going? Are we heading down a path where we're all influencers of on some level, or is there going to be a pivot and something happens that changes people's perspectives on this? It'll be fun. I'd love to hear the comments below.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely write some comments and follow along and subscribe if you're enjoying this content. So I kicked off the pod today talking about the death of social media, that social media is dead. Let me dive a little bit more into what I mean by that. So I think that we're within a context now where we've had complete saturation of horizontal consumer apps. So think of that as the Instagram, Twitter X, whatever we're calling it now, um, you know, TikTok, Snapchat, these platforms that kind of grew enormously large and, that everyone is on. And I think Gen Z and Gen Alpha pretty much have had their fill of social media platforms, at least as they exist within an app format in this current context. And so, what is some of the data to support that? Where's that coming from? So the average Gen Z user already has 8 to 10 social media accounts that they're using regularly. Be real. If you think of competitive companies that had, meteoric rise and then somewhat a fall, Be Real peaked at 73 million users and then dropped down to 33 million monthly actives by in 2023. Where I think things are heading is more that people are going to want social connections, but they're going to want some type of kind of value layer that's there in order for them to kind of use it in the same way. And even still, I don't think it will get to the same level as the other platforms, but I think these are ones that can kind of grow and then sustain over time. So 2 examples: Duolingo, fantastic way to kind of learn a new language, but they also have social features, which they say drove user growth by 51% in 2023. And then another app, Strava, for kind of running, fitness related workouts and tracking that with your friends, they maintain 95 million users with a practical utility first and then social feature second. But I think that's what creates more of a value. So I feel like with this graveyard of social media apps, today suggests is that people are not looking for another way to share a photo or chat. They're looking for platforms that actually solve real problems and have utility. And then they have the social piece embedded in. What do you think about that prediction and maybe thoughts about the space generally?
Yeah, I agree. I think today it's so hard to be found and heard in this sort of space of creating your own social media. I think apps in general, that was my thing. Apps in general, I think will die. Like it's just
Yeah.
they're so easy to recreate now. I think the study is like the average person only uses 5 or 6 apps a day, and then over the course of the year they have 90 apps to 100 apps on their phone, and they only use a handful. So
Yeah.
I think people that are I'm launching an app, let's invest in that. I think those days are over. Like it won't be anymore new apps. It'll have to be some sort of new form and function. And my thought was it'll be some verbal voice and audio style mechanism. I don't know how. I don't think it's out yet. That it's gonna say you're just gonna talk to it, and it's gonna
Mhm.
respond to you, and it'll go find you answers. It's kind of like AI,
Yeah.
but it seems like that's where we're going, right? It's not. It's no longer gonna be. I'm gonna whip out my phone. I've got my headphones in. I'm gonna hit
Mhm.
the Siri thing, and I'm gonna ask it questions, and it's gonna figure out a whole bunch more things than what it does today. That seems like where we're headed, right? It's like, hey, I want to watch the game tomorrow. What time is it? Where is it? Make sure I'm watching it, and then it's gonna do all the things. You don't have to go. You don't have to go and mark your calendar and then go back and then look for Hulu or ESPN. Like I think you're just gonna make a command and it'll happen. That or maybe that's the X all in app. I don't know. But I agree. It's tough. It's a really tough market to build an app and build a following and then you know have discovery and mechanisms built in. It's really hard. Me and
Yeah.
you've seen that. on many
Oh yes.
levels. And I think, yeah, this is going to be the challenge that everyone faces this year.
What do you think? Just building on what you're saying there, do you feel like, okay, if it's not an app, there have been a couple of startups that have entered like the wearable space where it's something you kind of, have or is close by, you kind of tap it. Humane kind of had that pin that, fell
Yep.
off. But there are some other companies. Do you think that maybe the capabilities of the AI will get strong enough and the hardware component will catch up where like that will become the primary use case in terms of what you're talking about, or you're thinking about something entirely different?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I have them right here. I have the Meta. I'm trying them out again. These are the Meta Ray-Bans, and it's a couple of killer features away from doing that, right? Like right now, you can listen to music, you can talk to it, and it can record. It's missing a feedback mechanism, and like on the actual glasses themselves, if it doesn't overlay, it's already like you no longer need your phone at that point, right? Because you can just say, hey, you tap your sunglasses, you ask it a question, it shows it to you on your glasses, and you're off.
Yeah.
Getting answers. And then you do some finger gestures. I mean, it's we're getting close. We're getting
Yeah.
close to like phone stays in the pocket, and all it is just processing what you need, and then it's showing up elsewhere. That seems to be where we're headed.
Yeah. Well, if that's where we're headed, Google's got to be very stressed out because so much
Yes.
of their revenue and what they built as a business is within search. There's kind of a paradigm shift towards like a wearable or other type of format where you're not kind of like typing into a search bar or some way that
Yeah.
they can kind of capture the data that makes it valuable for advertisers and their network. Like
Yeah.
that's scary hours.
Yeah, it is. Like I think about search and like that whole mechanism where you type in, what you want into any kind of bar, search bar. Um, that's that's for old people. Like now you
Hmm.
should know as a company, you need to know what I want. And just show me and swipe, and I
Hmm.
could find it. Like the I look at my kids, they don't type into things. They don't search. They don't. Their brains don't work like ours in terms of like, hey, I'm going to search these keywords and my thing is going to pop. It's not. It's not that. It's like they go into TikTok and they may search a couple categories and then they're swiping and trying to find it. And
Yeah.
I think that's where we're gonna go. Like it just seems logical that we're gonna need to do less. Companies are gonna need to know more and then deliver like the content right to us.
Yeah.
And
I, I think that's really interesting and also a good tee up to something else that you'd had in the show notes around kind of live shopping. Because I think of
yes,
like the connection between, okay, maybe do a few searches. It gets a good sense from the algorithm of what you're into. And then you're swiping through like your For You page, et cetera, learning even more. And then what it's integrating in is kind of like this live shopping or other type of
yep,
functionality that we've seen take off in East Asia, not necessarily go as large, be as big in the U.S. But maybe that's where we are next. What do you think about that piece?
yeah. I mean, I have that as a prediction that we're gonna see the rise of live shopping, like in the collectibles space. I've got all these collectibles behind me, and there's this app called Whatnot
Hmm.
that really capitalizes on that. Like, and you can see it potentially going into other worlds. You can see Twitch or Instagram Live or um, others sort of adopting this. I think Amazon has tried live, but I think there's going to be a more mass adoption um, style to this that seems like it would really work for every day because it is tough to find things like if I'm looking today for I don't know a new camera, how do you do it? Maybe you go on YouTube and you look for reviews, or you go uh, back in the day it was CNET, right? You go and look for reviews and you kind of try to sort of like triangulate what works and what doesn't. I can imagine a world where it's all in one, right? You go to Amazon,
Mm.
you watch live, people are using it, reviewing it, and buying, selling it right there on the spot. Or eBay Live, even we've seen eBay Live coming up. You can imagine you're just kind of it's just like TikTok. You hit the camera module and you just going through and looking at people selling their cameras and what they like and what they don't like about it. It I can see it working. Like
Yeah.
it's not just for collectibles; it could be for anything.
What do you think has happened within kind of like US or Western markets? Although I'm not as familiar with other Western markets, but I know it hasn't really taken off in the US. And you have these companies like TikTok and whatnot and others that have really tried and they've seen some success, but it hasn't been meteoric. What do you think? What do you think's been missing? And then what do you think's coming that kind of makes that experience better?
I mean, I think in Asia where it's really taken off is there is a much higher trust built into some of these apps that loading in your credit card and making purchases and returns and the price points are a lot lower, truthfully, that people
Hmm.
aren't as concerned. So like they see a shirt, it's tough to shop, they don't have time, so they're doing it in these little apps. And it's through the same sort of influencer style where it's like, hey, I trust this person, I bought things before, I know they're gonna get it. I see them lifting it up, they clearly have it, I'm gonna buy it. And that barrier in Asia is just down. They're willing to do that kind of shopping. Where here in the U.S., it's more like I need to see it, I need to touch it. We're still like
Hmm.
mall people at the end of the day. Like you go to the mall, you go
Yeah.
to Target, you go to Walmart, you touch the thing. Like getting over that hump is tough. Like we have an infrastructure here in the U.S. where it is very like physical goods in the mall. You're not, you know, people are already complaining about TikTok and YouTube. Like imagine taking away shopping and just doing it all online. Like it, I think it will happen. It's just going to be a lot slower here, and it's going to take some sort of mass event that'll take it to the next level. I think
Mm.
maybe a thing that's exclusive only on this style. Then people are like, oh, this isn't so bad. There was a time where people refused to buy anything online because they were afraid
Yeah.
of credit
No, for
cards
sure.
and all things. And meanwhile, in Japan, people were about loading their cards right into their phones and charging it to their cellular service. So like they're just quicker to adapt over there because
Hmm.
I think
Higher
um,
trust
yeah,
society.
there's a trust factor and there's also like convenience. Like they just you know but they weigh convenience over everything in a lot of these
Mhm.
regions because time is money and you don't have a lot of it and you're stuck in traffic or doing other things and you can build a task and you can buy you can go
Yeah.
shopping as well. So
Yeah. I like that prediction. I wonder, it'll be interesting to see kind of like what that event is or what kind of transpires in terms of new types of like products that people can buy within that medium. And maybe one takes off and then people learn a new habit and then, kind of snowballs from there. We definitely saw that within the context of live streaming,
yes,
just in general during kind of the pandemic and during that period where when we were at Twitch and just seeing
yes.
how people started to really understand the platform and the adjacent areas outside of gaming and how it took off. So I think that could
And I
for sure
think
happen here.
another thing that I think is tough is like making content to sell. Like even going from YouTube, which is like curated, branded, edited down, high quality content versus Twitch live stream, you come like those two personalities are very different. And then from live stream, being live, talking with chat, and then selling things is like another type of personality that's required. And I don't think all those things have matched.
Right.
If that makes sense, right? Like it's like Logan Paul does this thing on YouTube, blows up with highly curated content, goes on Twitch and falls flat because that's just not it doesn't match his style. So then he definitely can't take the next step and sell things live. So I think
Hmm.
it's the same thing with the Twitch streamers that are now Ninja and Nick Merckx and all these video gamers. You ask them to sell things, very different, right? They can play games, they can talk to chat, but when it's like, hey, launch a new line of clothing and sell it on
Yeah,
your
it's
stream,
true.
not gonna work.
It's true.
Like it's just not.
Yeah. And
So
it hasn't.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah, like in the next level of a style of influencer needs to come out of this as well.
Mm.
Because I think what we in America tend to do is just say, hey, the eyeballs are here. Let's ram monetization down its throat, and it doesn't necessarily work, right? Because you're like, hey, square peg round hole.
Yeah.
So I think that's generally where a lot of issues come up.
Definitely interesting space. I think you and I both like are enamored with kind of live streaming and creator economy
Yes,
stuff generally. So we'll see. 2025, big year of maybe live
big year.
live shopping. So we'll see. Maybe we could just jump. Maybe we'll jump into like my last prediction, and then your last one. Um, I think there's going to be this. This aligns with kind of one of the last points you talked about, like apps being dead and people trying to move away from that. I think there are a number of reasons for that, but I think that there's going to be a web app renaissance. And here are some reasons. Kind of some of the supporting data. So WebAssembly adoption grew 300% between 2021 and 2023. Apple's WebKit team has dramatically increased their investment in browser capabilities. For those of you who kind of work with PWAs or progressive web apps, which is essentially kind of the same functionality of an app, but distributed over this web as opposed to kind of in the App Store or Google Play Store, they show a 36% higher conversion rate than native apps. And then you have all these new kind of browser AI models that are demonstrating basically the same performance as traditional apps. So I think we're gonna see this explosion of consumer experiences, like consumer app-like experiences that aren't apps, but they are kind of web browser focused, that would be the same as imagine opening up Instagram right now in your browser and getting the same experience as the app, but with more features and faster updates. And so I feel like this is a fundamental shift in tech. I think it's better for the developers. I think it's better for consumers in a lot of ways. And could displace or take a big share out of some of the incumbents. So I'm really excited based off of kind of technological advancements that would happen within the web browser, as well as developers and consumers not being super happy with the app experience generally.
I mean, I know we're non-technical, but as HTML5 and the advancement in the actual coding on webs, it seems to be better, but
yeah,
maybe a more technical question.
Yeah, my sense is yes, and my sense from talking to developers in this space are like, yeah, you can pretty much create anything on web now that you would in the app with similar fidelity. It's just about changing a consumer behavior around it, and I guess how they show up within your device. But with AI, like devices and how you interact with your different apps or whatever they're called, like is probably going to change anyway. So I think this is like a good time for consumer brands that have more of a web app, either desktop web or mobile web presence to really push.
I mean, my pushback on that is retention, because the main reason you have an app is you get the push notification, you can drive people back. If we all go to this web app route, how do you? I mean, you're going to need emails, but not everyone's checking their emails like that. And then are you going to tie to some kind of social place? I just wonder how people are going to be retained if they're using a different bunch of sites essentially. How do you get it out of the noise and the clutter? It's going to be a tough task for all these developers to handle, right? Because then it's like, all right, I got them to my app. How do I get them back? Like, you saw it. How did I get them back without them having to physically come back and type it in?
Yeah, that's a fair point on the lifecycle side. I mean, I thought about the email piece and that being still like a really great way to get people back in apps. A lot of times when I get push notifications, they can be useful, but if there's not like a kind of a core need that's being served there, a lot of times they can be annoying as well. So I think I think you make the right pushback. I think it probably depends on product category as well, in terms of kind of whether push notifications are useful / delightful or an annoyance. And that may have an impact on the companies that do more development there. But a lot of times when I get pushes, unless I'm not saying that apps overall won't exist. I'm just thinking that, a lot of the new categories will shift towards web apps because, they can, and it's a lot easier getting distribution than through the stores. But you're absolutely right that the life cycle type of experience would be hindered, and maybe there'll be new technology or ways to get around that. Be interested to see if people have comments on that as well.
Yeah, we've talked about it. There needs to be some sort of consolidation of push notifications. I think the iOS and Google do a decent job of it, but maybe there's another layer there that is beyond between push and email where like you can subscribe and you can hear about things, or maybe your browsing history brings things. I don't know what that is, but that seems like it's a missing component in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, fair enough. Any other predictions you wanted to talk about or have? I think these are good. I think we got a good set here of stuff to kind of go back on, a year from now and see where it is.
Yeah, I love it. Again, if you have predictions or what are your thoughts on any of these, hit us below in the comments. We'd love to jump in to the comments and bring it there. So if you've got thoughts, suggestions, feedback, questions, throw them in there. We'd love to chat with you there and maybe bring it in. I think a lot of people text and email us this stuff, but throw it in the comments.
Yeah, throw it in the comments. It's good
Selfishly,
for the algorithms.
The algorithm. Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say it's good for the algorithms too. So yeah, we'd appreciate it. And as always, we're here for the community. To the extent that you have questions about any of the things we've reviewed or want to get to know us better or kind of the things that we work on or you have projects, etc. Happy to dive in and be helpful. So yeah, I
have one
subscribe.
More impromptu one.
Okay, let's go.
Job market 2025 prediction. Where do you think it's going to go? Tech job market. We're talking tech.
Tech job market. I think it stays where it's at now, maybe a little worse, not like significantly worse, but it's not the greatest time we're in right now. So
Agreed.
I think this kind of becomes more of the norm, where we're at right now in terms of availability of jobs and layoffs and things like that. I think it's more like a traditional industry. It's less kind of like, boom and busty. It's yeah. I think so.
What about RT, return to office? What are your thoughts there? Be better,
I was way more bullish about, primarily remote, work or hybrid. I think that it kind of depends on the stage of company and maturity of company, but in this job environment now where more of the leverage is held by employers, I think they want people in the office. And so do I think that hybrid and fully remote will go away? Absolutely not. I think vast majority of companies will still have some days that people aren't coming in, but I don't think it's a trend towards everybody being remote. And I think fewer companies are going to do the hybrid model too.
Yeah. That seems like the logical step, right? Like it's not necessarily a rug pull. It's like a really slow one where it's you can now come in 3 days a week, then 4 days a week, then every other Friday, and next thing you know, 24/7 in the office. But
and then if you don't, wink, wink, we'll just maybe find another opportunity that's right for you.
Badge in. Just make sure you badge in people.
Yeah, just make sure you badge in.
Whoever's out there, just badge in. Just do it.
Awesome, man.
Cool, man. We'll talk. Yes. We'll have another episode before the end of the year, right? Yeah, we will.
I think so. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And everyone enjoy your upcoming holidays, and yeah, we'll try to do at least one more episode before the end of the year.
Sounds good. Till then.
Cool.
Peace out.
Till then. Peace.
3